the day, I changed some diapers in some less than ideal places, like, in the corner of the room on the floor, or in the car, or once when my kid was standing in the dark in the cave tour. We just changed that diaper as fast as we could. Anyway, I'm Monique, and this is one more project that might help you with some of these awkward situations. I started by getting this perfectly good 99-cent shopping bag from Marshall's and taking it all apart. Took off all the pieces, and then I used 3 pieces of that for the inner to make a big pocket, a little pocket, and the inside layer. But then I also needed some batting, an outside layer, a few more things, some binding, some Velcro, a zipper that I don't know where it came from. It was just a zipper in my stash. I think I robbed it out of something I threw away. Anyway, I got all my pieces together. Then I hemmed the 2 pockets that are going to be on the inside. Too bad I had just taken the hem out of that big piece. But anyway, put that back in there and hem the small piece there. And now I'm going to make the little pocket to go on the inside for miscellaneous things. Sew it with right sides together, but I couldn't pin it without making holes in this plastic tie-backy whatever this stuff is. So I taped it, and that really worked well for this project. Narrow hem allowance there, and then when I fold it back to where it's going to be, it fit on the side. I was really happy with that I got that right. Then I'm going to overlay the big pocket, and I kind of tried to make it match the pattern a little, but it didn't match exactly, but at least it kept it going. Sewed that around the edges just to hold it in place. So there it is, the big pocket and then a little pocket for, butt cream or whatever small things you might need. So now there's the little pocket for miscellaneous and a big pocket for some wipes and some diapers and, maybe an extra onesie just in case. Now I'm measured again because, if I make up a number off the cuff and just tell it to you, I'm lying. So anyway, 26.5 inches long. But the outer piece is longer than that because I just wanted to fold it over and make this pocket. So after I measured to where the 26 would be, I was able to fold back up and make the pocket so that the whole piece is still 26 inches long. And I sewed that in place. And that gave me the 26-inch piece and 5-inch deep pocket. That was good. But look, now I got to take that out. Because this is going to be an exposed webbing zipper, I just have to sew it on top. So I had to back off some and take out that stitch there on the side so that I could sew this zipper in place. So to me, this is a strange way to do a zipper from what I'm used to doing, but it is easy. I didn't even have to change to the zipper foot. I laid it on top with the teeth extending a little bit beyond that top folded edge and just sewed across it. Not too bad. Then zipped it back up and was able to sew across the other side of the zipper. So now I have this nice pocket that you can put things in, maybe, a cell phone or your wallet or whatever if you were going to be out, and keep it. When I sew across the zipper, I'm going very slow so that I don't break my needle there on it. This is a nylon zipper, so it will sew across it easy, but still, why break the needle? To make a stop at the end of the zipper, it's just a very short, wide as I can make it, zigzag. Then I can cut that off and it won't let the zipper pull slide all the way off the end, because that would be terrible. I'm going to use a piece of webbing that was the handle of the bag that I tore apart and sew it on the bottom so I can put Velcro around to hold it closed when it's all rolled up. So I sewed all the way around, and then I went back, and it's kind of like making a figure 8 but with sharp corners so that you get that X across the middle. There we go. Now I'm gonna stack it all up, all the layers. So this is going to have a binding, so it's not right sides together. So there's the outside fabric, the batting, and then the inside fabric. And I did go ahead and pin this, but I was careful to try to keep the pins inside the seam allowance so I don't get holes in it. I pinned that webbing all up out of the way so I don't accidentally sew through that, because then I would have to take things out. And as much as I enjoy going backwards, sometimes it's nice not to go backwards. Here's a little piece of the other strap from the handle, so that it has a little handle there now for a clutch kind of way to carry it. Work out the serger and go around and get all of the pieces all nice and tied together and held in place all at one time. It was a kind of a hard thing because that plasticky, tie-backy, whatever that stuff is from the shopping bag was very stiff. Not super stiff like crazy, but it was so much stiffer than the other fabrics that it was hard to do. When I went across the zipper with my serger, I basically turned the machine by hand. I barely pushed on that pedal to keep it going because I didn't want it to break those needles. So then I went around all 4 sides, but I went across one of the short sides, and then from that end on both sides I went to the other short end, just to try to help keep it smooth instead of going in a circle and ending up with something big and bulky at the final end. This helped me keep it all smooth as I went. Here again, I'm coming to the zipper and I'm going to turn it, the flywheel maybe? I don't know what that piece is called. Turn that by hand though, so that it goes slow across that nylon zipper. I think I had an issue there with my machine cutting because of the zipper. Anyway, then did that final side, and now it's all bound together and ready for the binding to go on the outside. So before I put the binding on though, I just want to go back and reinforce the handle for the clutch there that hangs off and the stops for the zipper, just to make sure that the zipper pull doesn't have any chance of getting loose and getting off of the end. Alright, very good. Now it's time for the binding. This was a straight binding. I didn't have enough fabric to cut it on the bias, but you still attach them the same way whether they're cut on the bias or straight. See those two that were perpendicular to each other? And then sew diagonally across. There's kind of a square. You start at one corner and go to the other corner there, trim the extra, and now you have a long piece. Then I looked for a lackey or an underling or somebody to iron that folded in half. Well, it turns out I am that lackey, so I ironed that folded over in half. Now sew it on. Start it in the middle of the side, not at a corner. That'll make it better. So all the way to the end, and then stop and take it off and turn it. Keep that triangle that kind of gets folded up out of the way so it doesn't get stitched down, and sew the whole length of it. It's going slow there again at my zipper. I don't want to break the needles just for fun. I mean, it could be done, but not today. All the way to the end, take it off, turn the corner, and sew without catching that triangle. All the way around, all 4 sides, 3 sides, and can we do it? Can it happen? Can I make the 4th side? Apparently not, because I don't know what I'm doing there. Anyway, go slow across that nylon zipper. You can sew across metal zippers too, but it's just, you can't go through the zipper. You can go through the nylon. You can't go through the metal because it's going to break it, but you can go through the nylon. And then when I got back down to the bottom, I had to take out about a 1/2 inch of the beginning of the bias piece of the trim, and then cut this one so that it was an inch longer or so. And then I was able to fold it back and wrap it around at the beginning. And that way I didn't have to do anything to actually sew them together. They could just be folded over each other, and that will do. Then I went around and trimmed my seam allowance down to 1/4 inch. I have to tell you, it wandered around in some places and got to be too much. So I trimmed it all off, plus I mitered that corner and got rid of that sharp point. Look at this. I brought out the old high school machine because I didn't want to use my good machine through all these layers. It was getting to be a kind of thick project. And I also didn't want to pin and make a bunch of holes in the plasticky part. So I folded it under and sewed in really short chunks at a time instead of trying to sew all the way. And I stitched in the ditch. That is to say, I didn't stitch on top of the binding. I stitched right next to it, right in the seam as close as I could get it. All the way around with that. And at this point I had to fold it up out of the way sometimes in the back because it was hard for the machine to pull it through because it was getting to be thick and a little bit stiff. Not hard stiff, just, the machine can only pull so much. So it went all the way around, folding that under and sewing small bits at a time so that I could make sure it was folded far enough and that it would catch on that inside. Final thing, putting some Velcro on it so that it'll all stay closed up. I cut the webbing, but before I decided to sew the Velcro on there, I took it outside and fused the end of that webbing so that it wouldn't ravel. There it is. The Velcro that I used has loops and hooks on both sides, so it's not the soft side or the scratchy side, it's both. I just sewed a rectangle around to hold that, but I did leave a little bit of the webbing sticking down beyond to make it easier to grab when you're undoing it. And then I put the wipes in to test and see what about the smallest maybe that it might roll up to be, and the tightest I would want it, and marked where the Velcro should start. Then I put 6 inches or so about 3 inches on the strap, but about 6 inches on the outside of the changing pad, and sew again around in a rectangle. This went through all the layers But that was a good thing because it just kind of holds it one spot out in the middle without having to quilt the whole thing around. Just a little bit of something there in the middle. Trim off the extras, put the wipe in, and there you have it. A cute little bag so that you can change that baby's diaper wherever you might happen to be. Thanks for joining me. Maybe you can make one of those to help make those awkward situations at least a little more manageable. Remember, blessed is the one whose transgressions are forgiven, whose sins are covered. Stick around for a bonus this time. See you next time. Bonus, a quick review of how the thread usually goes on the machine. Put it on the thread spool, go through a thread guide, turn the corner and go down through the tension guide, up through the thread take up, back down through some thread guides, and then through your needle.